What is going on around here? My neck is killing me. Have no idea
You're
why.
a pain in the neck. A pain in the neck.
Absolutely.
Mine is. Mine is.
Hey,
we were
everybody.
taking care of the pain in the neck just now.
The cure for the pain in the neck.
Hello. Welcome to Protocol Sports Systems. Okay. So listen, today we are going to talk about 5 reasons why your neck may hurt and how to get rid
All
of
5
them.
of them.
So we're going a little more specific and breaking down exactly the neck, because so many people have a focus of pain that comes right into this area, and they're always like, my neck hurts, my neck hurts, my neck hurts, my neck hurts, my neck hurts. But is your neck really the thing that's hurting?
Right.
When we talk about pain in the neck, what does it really mean?
Most people are like, it hurts, I can't turn, I can't look this way, trying to drive and look over your left shoulder and see if what cars are coming on, they can't even get to that, turn their whole body. They're trying to, I know, because I've been there.
Yeah, I have too. And when your neck hurts, it's horrible. Horrible. It does affect everything in you. But is it just the pain in your neck, or what's creating that pain? Like, what is it, the upper back that moves its
Right.
way up into your head? Or is it from your head and moves its way back down into your upper back?
Or somewhere in
like,
between.
This is kind of where we get to look today to figure out the who's, the what's, the why's, the how's, and the when's of the neck.
Yes.
Yes,
Do it.
so
Break
let's
it
get
down.
started. Before we get rid of the pain, though, we need to know why first, what it is, and where.
Yeah, what's causing
Like,
that sucker?
what's the cause? Okay, so let's talk about the 5 steps. The 5 steps that could possibly be the reason why you got a pain in the back of your head right
No
here.
idea why my neck keeps hurting.
All right, so reason number 1, the big old bowling ball that sits on top of your shoulders.
This one's large.
Yeah, it's large. Okay, so we have, if you notice from our buddy Scully up here, we have 7 vertebrae that sit in your cervical area. 7. And their job is to help us connect our head to our shoulders. It's there to stabilize, and it's there to help with this big old guy. The average head weighs between like 7 and 12 pounds. Usually right about
102, right?
11 pounds. 102 pounds. It's the hair.
It's thickness.
The hair is
It's
what
all
it does. So if you think about the weight of the head, and that's sitting directly on top of the spine.
Yeah, that's when it's in the right position.
Right. So your vertebrae, your 7 cervical vertebrae, are sitting on top of one another and placed so in accordance so that it helps to stabilize this guy. And then you've got 20 muscles that come in and connect. 20 muscles that connect into the base of the head and the neck to help intrinsically move it and mobilize that guy. But truthfully, the vertebrae themselves are stabilizers. They're not there to be mobile, with the exception of this big one right up here, which is the C1 and C2, the atlas, which moves along the axis, which is really how our head
About 80,
gets
I
our...
think it's about 80% of the rotation.
Yeah.
Is that right? 80%.
That's
is
where the
right up there.
rotation actually
Right
comes
top.
from, is C1. And so we're talking about that atlas. So listen, if you've got a huge head, I'm sorry, but you do. If you got a huge head and it weighs between 7 and 12 pounds, let's say Mike weighs 11 pounds.
Like horses.
11 pounds a head right there, that bowling ball. It's got to balance on those 7 vertebrae accurately. And then Eric Dalton was the one that came up with this. He did a blog about a 42-pound head. So let's say you got Mike's head and he sits like this. Let's sit you sideways. There you go. So he's sitting upright with good posture, right? For every inch that his head tilts forward is another extra 10 pounds. So let's say Mike is only 3 inches forward. That's 30 pounds added on top of the amount of his head. So that is your texting, that is your phone, that is your laptop, that is your computer, that is whatever you do on a daily. So think about this. For every inch, add 10 pounds. 3 inches is 30 pounds plus that 11, so that's 41 pounds.
And we're on camera right now. Is that another 10 pounds on top
Yeah,
of that?
because you got a big head. And then you add the hair into it.
Oh, that hair.
It's all about that. So you've got an extra 10 pounds on your muscles and your vertebrae. So your head could literally weigh anywhere from 30 to 42 pounds.
42 pounds.
Depending on how forward your head is. 3 inches, 42 pounds. So I'm going to leave that there with you. So think about this. If we're trying to hold up this giant head, and our vertebrae are not that big, if you notice, and they're doing this job to hold up this gigantic head that's literally sitting like this all the time, there's so many other things that are happening, and think about where this goes. It goes down the line of the spine.
Tremendous amount of strain going all the way down the back of the chain.
Right. Now, so remember, the goal and the job of the vertebrae is to help with impact. So any type of impact that your skull has, which is in your brain, your brain is in your skull. So all the impact goes into these intervertebral discs, these tiny little discs in here. Even though they're small, their job is to disperse it. So you've got these discs that are sitting in between the vertebrae, and they are taking the impact and dispersing it. But now you got a head that's sitting forward like this. So how are we going to disperse that evenly?
How can it possibly disperse? It can't.
Right.
It's going to make it very uneven.
So then if you had unevenness into the vertebrae, you have unevenness into the pulling on the vertebrae and the stress that's being applied to the vertebrae. So the stress is into the bone, it's into the joint, it's into the muscle. Everything is now pulling on the bone, which is then creating pain in the neck. Right? But so that's one. The bowling ball that sits on your head. But now let's go a little bit deeper and talk about that support structure that you have underneath the bowling ball, which are those muscles. Now the muscles' job, you've got 20 of them, remember, and they attach to the head and the neck. And what they do is they support and they are responsible for movement in the head in all directions. That is flexion, extension, lateral flexion, rotation, and then the one that they don't talk about, which is retraction, which is a big missing in the majority of us. Let's go. Stop trying to steal the spotlight, dude. Okay, so now we're talking about all of these different ranges of motion. If you have a forward head, the muscle's job is two things. It shortens and lengthens. Shortens and lengthens. That's all a muscle does. It shortens and lengthens. It contracts, it elongates. It contracts and elongates. So now, you've got a head that, turn to the side. Give me flexion and extension.
Flexion.
That's a lengthening. Extension, that's a shortening, correct? Flexion and extension, lengthening and shortening. So now, you have a head that's sitting forward like this all the time. These poor little muscles, they can't go back to their normal way of being, which is contraction. They can't shorten. They're just in a state of elongation and just constant. It's like your head fell off a cliff and your body is just like, your muscles are like, and they're just holding and holding and holding, trying to keep your head on, right? And so what they do is they're trying to stabilize and move you, and they can only do so much. So now your head is sitting forward, or your head is sitting kind of off, or your head is sitting kind of cockeyed here, or let's say you get hit by a car and you get some whiplash and your head is suddenly shaking around like this. Everything gets messed up, and then all of a sudden we go into spasm, we go into overcontraction, which then you get hypertonicity. Hypertonicity means there's tone in the muscle all over our bodies unless we are paralyzed and or dead or in space. And then we have no muscle tone. But the tone is that contractile property, that slight contraction that's happening all the time when the brain is getting an understanding of what's happening.
For us to sit up right now, we're holding tone.
It's holding tone. And so when you get hypertonicity, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting stronger. It means that the tone is dialed up to the nth degree. But you're just sitting there like this, like, but yet you're not stronger for it. So now your muscles in the back of your neck, the ones that attach to your head, the ones that go down to the middle of your back, are in hypertonic stage.
Fully tight.
They are just like, good Lord, this is a heavy head. Did you know how much this head weighs? That's what the muscles are saying. So a long conversation. If you ever listen to muscles, they're complaining a whole lot in that neck. And so then what happens is you get these muscles down here that build up a little bit of hypertrophy because they're constantly being pulled on. they start to bulk. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily stronger, because remember, everything is getting pulled forward because the muscles are just like, all right.
And a lot of times you'll bulk just on one side.
Yeah, depending on what's happening. But there's pain in your neck, so why isn't this being taken care of? If the muscles aren't able to do their job of, remember, flexion, extension, rotation, lateral flexion, and retraction, if they can't do that, what's going to happen? And who are they going to be calling on to help them out?
Well, there's only one other thing to do. It's calling the actual structures themselves. The bones are going to start to come out of place, and the ligament structures are going to either become elongated and overstretched, or over-shortened and compressed.
Right, and remember, all these muscles in the back, if your head is forward, so are your shoulders are rounded. And so all those stabilizer muscles are stretched out too. So we've got no contractile property going on back here at all. Nothing's happening where it's like, let's hold these guys up. So now the muscles are like, I can't help. So the body, being an amazing teamwork of structures, the joints are like, all right, I guess we're in. And they high-five each other and they tap in, and then the joints are like, and so now where they normally are sitting upright in almost in a lordotic curve, now they're going into a kyphotic curve. So now they got this big curve here, but it doesn't happen just at the neck, you guys. It also happens turn.
Oh my goodness.
And not all that way.
Whoa.
Drop your head forward.
All right.
It happens right here into the thoracic spine. So now all these vertebrae that are going up into the neck are starting to round even more, because they're trying to do the job of what the muscles are supposed to do but are failing at, because they don't have any contractile property, because they're only being stopped, they're being held in one position, right? A joint is when two bones come together.
Yep.
You might be asking yourself, what joints do we have in our vertebrae? You've got these joints of each vertebrae that are sitting on top of each vertebrae. So each of these are a joint, guys. Each vertebrae is its own joint, and it sits on top of each other like this. And then when that happens, it's able to flex, extend, and rotate. But if it's sitting like this, all the joint and the joint structure is being pulled forward. Now think about this.
Think it.
What then happens we go back to this vertebrae. What happens to those guys? Because now there's an actual extra stress that's being applied to them. So you have all these stresses that are applied into the vertebrae that are going to be pulling on the neck. But it's not necessarily from there. It's from here. So you got all of this extra growth, extra stress, extra pulling, extra stuff that's happening into this area that's affecting all of the stuff in the neck. That's number 3, those joints. The joints then then the joints start to move, because they're like, okay, we'll just slide forward because we can only hold on for so long. And then that decreases your range of motion. So now, instead of being able to do this, you're like, ow.
Just keep getting lost in extension.
Ow, because all of the vertebrae have now shifted forward. So now instead of sitting on top of one another, they're sitting forward like a staircase into one another. And so everything now bangs into one another, and then you don't have the range of motion, and that leads to
Pain.
Pain in the neck. But is it really a pain in the neck? I don't know.
Well, that's where you're experiencing the pain. It's
Sure.
all about where it's coming from.
Sure. So the one thing we want to do is also talk about the things that hold those joints together. So this would be number 4.
Quattro.
That would be those ligaments. So ligaments, they are the stabilizers of the joint, right? They're this cross-thatched cable-like system. In the body, we have the movers and stabilizers. And the movers are like your tendons. So they attach to the muscle and they go one direction and they allow for movement. Ligaments attach bone to bone. Bone to bone, bone to bone, bone to bone. And so you have ligaments everywhere in your body, and what they're doing is they're crossing up like this, being able to be pulled in all different directions, and they attach the vertebrae so that you don't have this whoop, this big slippage
Yeah, slide.
that's going on, because we wouldn't last long on the earth if we slipped all over the place and all our parts started moving around.
Anybody who's dislocated a shoulder, which there's a lot of dislocated shoulders out there,
Lots.
can know how that slippage. Oh, wait till that. Amazing.
So when they are doing their job, they are creating a great stable surface, right? So they're everywhere, so that you can have this dynamic movement and not feel like you're ripping and tearing everywhere. However, if you've been sitting like this for a super long time, what happens then is, if you think of a rubber band that's been sitting out in the heat for a long time, it loses its strength and its contractile property, and it goes think, and it just stays long. It's like if you pulled on your shirt for a long period of time and then the collar just opens up. So what'll happen is those ligaments now become loose, and what used to be pretty easy to retract that guy back is now going to be challenging for you to get that back and keep it there. And therefore, we have this cycle of pain that keeps coming through. Because you come down, it hurts, you come up, and it stops hurting.
And you might go to a massage therapist or something to get to calm down some of that hypertrophy muscle, the muscles that are really, really tight, or hypertonic muscles, and then it all comes right back again.
Yeah, and ligaments, they have a blood flow. They have a slight blood flow, but you can sprain your ligaments. Happens all the time. And so people will experience all this pain that's going on repeatedly in their neck, and they move, but it's because they're too mobile. And so their body doesn't know how to hold them back into a stabilized position because they've lost the ability to stabilize. So that is number 4. So the basics of pain in the neck are your bone, your muscle, your joint, the ligament, nerve. I know. Because when people see nerves or they think nerves, they think, oh my God, I have to have surgery.
Right.
Oh, it's a disc. I tore a nerve. I gotta have surgery. Oh, I herniated a disc. It's I compressed a nerve. I gotta have surgery. What do nerves do? Nerves actually innervate your muscles to move. That's what they do. These little yellow things that are coming out of Scully all over, these are his nerve roots.
Send and receive information.
But that's what they do. They're constantly they're your watchdog group, right? They're receiving information. Hey, I want to move. All right, well, do it. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I did it. So if they are compressed because your joints have now moved forward, so think about this. The head is heavy. We're sitting forward. That pulls on the muscles. The muscles are like, I'm tired. Take it, joints. And the joints are like, I'm tired too. And then the joints move forward. What's happening now is they're going to compress into that nerve root because they can't hold themselves up. So they're compressing into the nerve root because now the stress isn't equally dispersed, right? And so the impact, and so it's like pressing on one side more than the other. There goes the nerve. Here comes the pain running down your neck, running down your arm.
Which sets up another cycle of the body's sensing there's going to be a huge problem.
Yep.
So we got to go and stabilize that area. It's going to stabilize it in that abnormal pattern.
Right. And so then what it also causes is adhesions. And so adhesions are basically where 2 layers of tissue adhere together. So now you've got tissue that's normally moving like this all over the body, right? This is how we contract when we're moving. We're like a superhighway that's going on in there. Things are moving and crossing across. If all of a sudden now you're not getting a lot of blood flow and you're not getting a lot of contractile property because the muscles aren't doing their job, because the head is too heavy and they can't get back, it creates an adhesion. So everything kind of gets stuck together. Then when this gets stuck together, what's happening is it becomes irritated, and then boom, all the nerves sit up at the top like this and get really, really annoyed, i.e. trigger point. That's what your knots are, guys. So when all of a sudden you're feeling this, you're feeling all of the nerve sensation at the superficial part of the fibers. But it's because the stuff isn't working down here. And that's where you're feeling the end result of what's actually going on a few layers below. A lot of other things that are happening. So also a lack of ligament stabilization, what that does is it slides the vertebrae over the compressed nerve root. So now you've got pain, not pain, pain, not pain, pain, not pain, You're pulling from the head, you're pressure on the vertebrae, the disc is pressurized from one side more than the other, you have unequal distribution and disbursement equals pain. And then that's where you get the bulging disc, herniated disc. That's where they come from. They come from things not being correct up here. Because anything that's got the disc that's even, it wears evenly. If it's got an uneven compression, it's going to wear unevenly, and then it's going to push out and bulge, i.e. your bulging disc, your herniated disc.
Osteophytes can also force her to go in there, so bone
Absolutely.
spurs.
Yep. And so then think about all of these neck muscles. Remember, 20. You don't have 20 just sitting back here. You got 20 all the way around the neck. 8 that just are your suboccipitals that help with the tiny little movements this way. But a lot of these also, they help function not just neck movement, but breathing. So they help raise and lower these ribs, but you have this huge brachial plexus of nerves that come under here, under these muscles, under the clavicle, under the pec. And so they're literally sitting right here. And so you get these muscles that are now tight as all get out because they're sitting like, I don't know what to do. And they're compressing on the nerve. So now you have neck pain because you have nerve pain, because you have muscle pain, because you have joint pain, because you have a head that's sitting forward. That makes sense? It's crazy how one little action creates a ripple in the pond. Like a huge ripple. It does. So,
brings us back.
This brings us back
how do we change
to how we change it.
How do we get out of all this problem, this cycle?
So how do we do it? How do we do it?
It gets to start with our posture.
Right.
It's changing how we're holding ourselves in space.
Right, and you don't know what you don't know, you guys. So proprioception is an amazing thing. So when there's this thing called a righting reflex, that if you drop your head down, your head will right itself because your eyes always have to hit the horizon. And so if you're looking like this, this will actually allow you to stay forward and not feel like you're dizzy, because if you're like this all the time, you're going to end up falling over. So the body will adjust itself to a forward head by righting the eyeballs with the horizon and tilting the head back. So a lot of us are in a forward head posture and have no idea that we're actually in it, because according to our eyes and our brain, we're in the right spot. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are constantly adjusting ourselves and making sure we're up and retracted back. So one quick exercise to do that I like to do is like, it used to be called the cigarette exercise, but you know, we don't smoke here, so whatever.
The vaping.
The what?
The vaping.
Oh yeah, we don't vape either. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna cross your fingers across your arm to hold yourself. The other hand, your 2 fingers goes onto your lip. What you're gonna do is keep your fingers at your lip and pull your head away. So you should be able to pull straight
Even
back.
the fingers here, don't move your fingers.
So your fingers stay with you, and then you move your fingers back into your head. So it's not this, and it's not this, or this. Your nose and your lips are in the same position, and you pull straight back. Pull straight back. And that will allow you to retract your head. So that would be one. No, okay, so posture braces. That's a really great question. Posture braces,
I have my thoughts on this.
in my opinion, they're going to sit you upright, but they're not going to teach you how to actually do it yourself.
They're good for a reminder for those who really need a reminder to correct and change your posture. Some people need that. I suggest you just need to correct and change your posture. For those who really need that reminder, it's going to be there for you to remind you. But then what's going to happen is you're going to get used to that brace being on, and you'll forget.
Well, and it doesn't really teach you how to do it.
No.
I would do in my own. Plus, they rip into your armpits, and they hurt your armpits because they're grinding into here.
Well, they have some nice ones that are padded.
Yeah. So listen, I would think about doing taping in between your shoulder blades. So what you're going to do is you're going to round you're going to put a rock tape or a K tape or some kind of a stretchy tape on. Round yourself, and then put it on either side. Have somebody attach it to the back sides of your rhomboids, or your shoulder blades, scapula, and then you're going to pull back, and then as you do that, it'll remind you every time you round forward to sit back up.
You will actually feel it pulling on you in the back as you round forward, so you're going to want to correct that.
It should be a subliminal reminder. That's it. So, and that's to me, it's a lot cheaper than doing it the other way, personally. But if you can actually do it on your own, I think that's going to be so much more beneficial down the line.
Educating.
So the other thing too is when we have a forward head posture like this, or neck pain, we have a tendency to be up here with our shoulders. So where the attention goes, the energy flows. And so our shoulders are usually way up here. Our upper traps are super hypertrophied, right? Because they're so built up, because they're doing way too much work and everything has got too much tone on it and it's hypertonic. Remember too, the trapezius, it goes into a trapezoid. It comes from the base of the head down, out to the shoulders, down. There's 3 levels, upper, middle, and lower fibers of trap. If these guys are up really high, the easiest way to pull them is to pull the shoulders down and activate the stabilizer muscles back here that depress these shoulders. And if you do that, it'll alleviate the pain going from here up to your head. Instant. It's instant. It's called reciprocal inhibition, and it doesn't allow 2 opposing muscle groups to contract at the same time. So if you retract here, pull the shoulder blades down towards your butt, not arching,
Don't do this one.
but just pulling them down. This releases all these muscles up here, and it'll be an instant fix of like feeling
Change it
better.
right away.
The muscle tissue will relax automatically. That's a great one, easy, because you can do it while driving, drop down. You can do it while holding on, drop down. You can do all sorts of stuff. Just drop your shoulders down. It'll release all the pain into the neck. The other thing too is, remember, it starts from the thoracic spine. So if we can do a press up, like a cobra press, right? So you're laying on the ground and you're thinking about your head and your neck just coming up and compressing. So you want to take all of these and rotate them back, retract them.
We're getting rid of that kyphotic spine.
Right.
We're trying to go the opposite direction.
Right. So as you do that and you're laying on the ground and pressing up, what that's doing is it's releasing all of the muscles that are way too tight in the front, which that's usually a cause too. And then it's also reminding the back that it knows how to work. So all of the postural muscles, all of the muscles that are there to stabilize you, get a chance to activate and drop you back up. And they put you erect again, which is fantastic, which is what we want. The other thing too is it's not just about extension, it's about rotation. So it's also coming in and really being able to rotate just our upper body and the neck and the shoulders. So even if I look forward and rotate my body, I'm rotating the neck.
She's now getting cervical rotation with the thoracic rotation.
Yeah. So it's really about how do we get rotation in all the way from the middle to the upper part of our back and neck. And if you can do that, this calms down, because a lot of times the muscle is reacting to the fact that it can't move with the joint. And then the joint's reacting to the fact that the muscle isn't working. So it's this horrible cycle of pain that people get in. The last thing is adjust your laptop, adjust your computer, adjust your iPhone. Stop
like
texting so much where you're like this. Like, really be cognizant of your posture. Sit upright.
Get
Your
up,
eyes should be up. Everything should be looking up a little bit more instead of dropping down. Give this big bowling ball an opportunity to do what its job is and sit on top of your head, or on top of your head, on top of your vertebrae.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Instead of drop down. Give your body a chance to work for itself. If you can actually adjust things to where you're looking up about a third of the way up, this is actually proper posture so that you're actually upright doing all of your work. When you're texting, text out here. I know it looks goofy, but it doesn't look any goofier than this, and it won't hurt you. And it looks like you're actually trying to focus on somebody else in the atmosphere besides just yourself. So think about how you adjust your body and your world to work for your posture. When you're sitting in your car, drop your head back into the back seat. Think about think about this, guys. If you had eyes in the back of your head, your posture would be phenomenal, because your body's following where your eyeballs are. It does it all the time. Think about what would happen if you had eyeballs in the back of your head and how that would affect your back.